So today I wanted to talk to you all about Giving Tuesday, and specifically how we can use social media to fundraise for our cause. So before we get started on that, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm the social media and content strategist here at RAMP Communications. And I've worked with many large nonprofits as well as for national fundraising events and with some small businesses and entrepreneurs, and also with large scale entertainment events with over 50,000 people. And one thing that I noticed throughout all of the different types of social media that I've done is that some content, is shared very rapidly and other content barely engages anyone. And I really struggled with why that is. So I ended up doing my thesis research when I was at Humber on social sharing and viral content. And I actually presented that research at the World PR Forum. So some of those insights will be peppered throughout my presentation just to make sure that we're really using social media as effectively as possible. And a little bit about RAMP. So we are a strategic creative agency and we work mostly with charities and nonprofits. And our purpose is really to create a vibrant social profit sector capable of solving our generation's most urgent challenges. So that's why we're hosting this webinar today. And we're also a B Corporation, which means that we're actually audited on our social, environmental, and community impact. So just something to think about as you might be looking for agencies to work with. So let's get right into it. What is Giving Tuesday? So some of you might have heard of it, some of you might not have. But Giving Tuesday this year falls on November 27th. And what it is a global movement to open up the holiday giving season. And it lands just after Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So both Black Friday and Cyber Monday are very focused around consumerism, and the idea is that Giving Tuesday is actually an invitation for people to be kind, to be generous, and to give back. And every year, donations grow and increase as the awareness of Giving Tuesday increases as well. And as you can see, I couldn't find a Canadian statistic, but in America, there was over $274 million raised last year. So in Canada, 6 million Canadians participated and 6,000 charities and businesses did as well last year. So the point here is that charities that actively participate in Giving Tuesday are actually the ones that benefit the most. So we know it's important to participate, but why? So it's a really great way to kick off your year-end giving. I know most of you are probably right in the heart of rolling out your year-end giving activities at the moment. And whether or not you have anything planned for Giving Tuesday, hopefully this webinar can help inspire you. And even if it doesn't lead to anything for Giving Tuesday, perhaps this can help you with your year-end giving and your year-end online fundraising to help you get more donations and raise more awareness for your cause. So as you can see, 15% of new donors actually ended up giving again to charities as part of Giving Tuesday and afterwards. They're also 3 to 4 times more likely to become a peer-to-peer fundraiser, which is really good news. And nonprofits that kicked off their year-end fundraising with Giving Tuesday actually raised an average of 5 times more during year-end. It's also a social media phenomenon, so lots of mentions, the hashtags trended. So it's a really good opportunity, even if you work for a very small nonprofit, to raise awareness about your cause and increase the visibility of your cause as well. So we really want to start our year-end giving with this, but if you don't, that's okay too. So how can you maximize your efforts and really make sure that you're standing out among all of the noise, all of the mentions on social media during Giving Tuesday? Well, I have a little bit of an outline for you. So How to use social media to fundraise for your cause? Well, you're going to want to define your roles and resources. I always advocate for research, so doing some research is really important. You want to get to know your audience, set your goals, figure out how social media integrates with everything else you're doing, and then we can get to the content. And we've actually created some content that you can use right away. So if you don't have anything planned, we'll give you some content that you can use today at the end of this webinar. And then we'll also talk a little bit about stewardship and how to actually keep those donors engaged and thank them. So roles and resources. We want to really ensure that we're defining our roles and resources to encourage accountability in our team. So you want to choose somebody to lead the Giving Tuesday social media efforts. It's important to clearly define all of the roles and responsibilities on your team. And then, if you're really strapped for time, you might want to consider using social media software. And I'll go through a few different types that might benefit your organization. So some social media tools that you can use. So most people have probably heard of Hootsuite. It does have a free plan, which is quite limited. It gives you 3 profiles that you can hook up. So let's say a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, for example, or a LinkedIn. And then you have 30 scheduled messages that you can send out per month. And you also get 1 user. So you can use this to schedule all of your messages in advance, and then you can spend more time actually engaging with audiences. And this software does have a special nonprofit rate, so you can get in touch with them to learn more about that. But here are just some of the packages they offer. Or you could use the free version as well. If you have a little bit of a higher budget, this is the tool that we use here at RAMP. And of course, we also offer it to all of our clients. So it's Sprout Social, and that allows you to actually have 10 or 15 social profiles, depending on which package you go with. So if you have a couple of brands that you're using, that might be beneficial to you. It also allows you to have really robust analytics, so you can track your results. You have 1 calendar where you can see everything, and your team can see all of the posts, so you get a really good holistic view of everything that's happening. And then 1 inbox, so you can answer all of your comments on every platform. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you have all of your Pinterest, you have all of your platform messages in one place. You can respond to comments, you can like posts, you can follow people directly from the same platform. The next platform we're going to talk about is CoSchedule. So this is a little bit of a mid-range plan. It does have 1 calendar, so you get that holistic view. You also can schedule blog posts with it. So if you use a WordPress, that might be something you want to look into. It also has email marketing integration, so MailChimp, Constant Contact, and a few other platforms. So you can have everything in one place. It offers the analytics as well. It's really good for teams, so you can have notes in there and comments and tasks, so you can delegate accordingly. So that might be a good tool if you're kind of in the mid-range budget. You want to invest a little bit, but you don't want to go with the more robust Sprout Social. So these tools can really help you when you're planning your content, allow you to have more time to actually engage with donors. And because the time window is so short and you only have 1 day for Giving Tuesday, it's good to have something in place so that you can really spend the time engaging. And then you want to think about what external resources you might be using. So of course you can work with an agency like RAMP, and we actually do offer a RAMP agency access program, so that allows you to take advantage of professional graphic design services at our cost. So that might be something that you want to talk to me about afterwards. But if you want to do it yourself, you can also use Canva, which actually just rolled out a free tool for nonprofits, which allows you to use a web-based sort of drag and drop design software, no graphic design experience necessary, and they do have a nonprofit program. We also recently wrote a blog post about other nonprofit tools that you can use that have great programs and discounts for nonprofits. And that's available on our blog at ramp.agency/nonprofittech. So the URL is there, but of course I'll send you this information afterwards as well. So, you might want to think about graphic design if you're going to hire a graphic designer. Are we using photography? Are we using videography? And then I've listed a few free tools as well that offer really nice professional stock images, like the one on the right, and those are available free to you as well. And then, of course, you want to think about your landing page or your donation site. So how are people actually going to make the donation? You might want to use a landing page tool like one on Canada Helps, or use MailChimp to create a drag and drop landing page with no design experience necessary. Or you might use your existing donation page through your donation software, whether it's Blackbaud or FrontStream or all of the different tools available. So just figuring out where the donation is actually going to be made. And once you have all of those pieces in place, then you can start to look at some research. So thinking about our results from the year before, how were our social media posts doing, what engaged people the most. You might want to look at your organizational strategic plans as well, determine areas of need, what can you improve on. And of course, if you didn't do anything last year, that's okay too. You can take a look at some of your competition. I know we don't like to think of other causes as competition, but you might have a cause that's doing something similar to you, and it's good to look at what they're doing. And the goal is really to take all of the data that you have and all of the information and transform that into actual insights that you can use to inform your campaign. The next thing we want to look at is our audience. So choosing one specific target audience is always a good idea, and that way you can choose content that really is meaningful to them and helps resonate with them to ensure that you get the highest amount of engagement, and hopefully that leads to more donations as well. I always like to say that social media is about people, not brands. So really thinking about our audience and what they need is important. So if you're doing a fundraising campaign, you probably want to target potential new donors. However, it's important to ensure that your other audiences don't get alienated from your message as well. So thinking about our other audiences, whether it's existing donors, ambassadors of our cause, volunteers, you might want to create different messages that resonate with those secondary audience groups. So here's a couple examples. I really like that they've segmented to different audiences and created messages for each one. So the first message on the left, that is a call to action to donate. So that's really looking for donors, and it talks about what they do and kind of uses that hashtag Giving Tuesday. But then the message on the right is a call to action for volunteers. So, we need your help, sign up, give us an hour of your time, that kind of thing. So that's a really good way to think about it. While you may be looking for donations, you can also engage volunteers as well. While we're thinking about our audiences, it's important to think about how we speak to them. So audience-centric or donor-centric language works really well. It makes it all about them. And you can use words like with your help, because of you, your donation. And you can see an example post that we did for one of our clients on the right. So have you talked to the men and boys in your life about gender equality? Makes it very specific. It feels like the cause is directly speaking to the audience. It tells them, how they can get involved. And we really want to think about, the benefit to them and how their participation can make a difference. You also want to think about what actually motivates your audience. So if you've watched any of my webinars before, you'll recognize this slide because it's really, really important. So no matter what you're doing on social media, you want to think about your audience and what motivates them. I'll give you a few examples of audience personas that another cause has used, just so you can see how they've really mapped it out. So here you have 3 audience personas. You have Eddie, the empty nest volunteer. You have Manuel, the millennial donor, and Vanessa, the young professional volunteer. And these are all personas from Make-A-Wish Foundation. So what do we know about Eddie? Well, he has adult kids, he has more time and a desire to give back. He wants to do more, and he already has a successful career. Manuel, on the other hand, is more digitally connected. He's a traveler. His friends are very important to him. He's dating. He doesn't have a lot of income, but he does give back to causes he cares about. And he has a very short attention span. And Vanessa just moved to a new city. She really wants to make an impact. She's looking for ways to make friends. She loves children, and she wants some of her own one day. So you can see how these three people are very different. And because our audience is made up of very diverse people on social media, you want to create messages that are specific to the different types of people that are going to be involved in our cause, instead of just having one blanket message for everybody. So while you're thinking about your fundraising campaign, think about who you're trying to reach. What are some of their challenges and their pain points, and how can we actually help them overcome that? The next thing you really want to map out is your goals. So what do we actually want our audience to do? Are we asking them to donate? Are we asking them to fundraise? Are we asking them to volunteer? So it might be helpful to choose one main goal for each specific audience. So if it's new donors, you obviously want them to donate. If it's existing donors, maybe we want them to become peer-to-peer fundraisers for our cause. And volunteers, maybe we want to encourage them to volunteer again. Choose one main goal for the entire campaign, and then make sure you know what you want to ask each of your audiences to do. And then make sure you have a very clear, strong call to action. So whether you're inviting them to learn more, see the impact a donation makes, donate, volunteer, or even share content, which can help raise awareness, especially on such a busy day when there's so much noise from every charity. And also, we know that engagement on social media organically is dropping, especially on Facebook. So inviting people to share might actually help more people see your content. So on the right, you'll see an example of a post we did for our client, the Jerusalem Foundation of Canada. It's very clear, very simple, and the call to action is very obvious. Share this if you agree. So that's a good way to make your call to action very clear, is just have it directly in your content, whether it's in the image or in the actual post. Here are a few examples from Habitat for Humanity as well, and this is part of their Giving Tuesday campaign. So let's look at the one on the left. You'll see that they have a specific goal. So they're trying to reach $80,000. I really like that they've mentioned this directly, because then they say, you know, we're $10,000 away. So people feel motivated to give when they know there's a goal being reached. And there's a lot of psychology behind, you know, showing a progress bar and actually showing, you know, we're $10,000 away from our goal. That makes people see that it's not so out of sight, it's not so far away, and they get inspired to give. So that's, you know, something really important, is mapping out those goals clearly. Are we trying to raise $10,000? Are we trying to raise $500? Do we have a specific program that we need to fund? And then on the right, you'll see another post. Katana and her family will spend their first holiday season in their own Habitat home. So that really shows the impact of a donation. It makes it real. It creates an emotional connection. It's using real photos of real people so that the audience can see how they can actually help reach a goal and help this family get a home and help other families as well. So a few different ways that you can do this and how it actually plays out in the post. Here's another example of a campaign that I really liked. So Giving Zoo Day. Zoos across North America have created their own version of Giving Tuesday. And they set up this crowdfunding style page through Canada Health. So what I really like about this is that you can see the progress bar. We're trying to raise $5,000. They have a very clear goal set. They set the timeline. You can see exactly how much time you have to take part. And then it talks about, you know, a specific need. So The zoo needed dental equipment, and there's a specific tooth extraction machine that they're trying to fundraise for. If you give money to this campaign, you know exactly where it's going, you know how much it costs, and you can see the impact that would make for the zoo. It's all explained in the content. So really nice campaign. Another one we're going to look at is the Quebec Breast Cancer Foundation. So they also have the progress bar down there at the bottom. And what I like about this one is that they actually created a tangible benefit for each monetary donation amount. So if you donate $10, that equals parking at a hospital. You know, $5 offers a hot meal, $1 is a cup of coffee. So you can really create that tangible benefit based on the different donation amounts. And that helps donors kind of see, again, where their money's going, how they're helping you achieve your goals. So now that we have mapped out our goals, we want to think about our campaign holistically. So, you know, we're not just trapped in the social media bubble, but we want to think about what other channels we're using. What is the marketing team doing outside of this campaign? Can we integrate this campaign using other tactics? So maybe we want to send out an email. So Giving Zoo Day actually did send out an email, and that led to the donation page. And then they also use social media. So, you know, thinking about online fundraising revenue, 1/3 of it actually comes from email marketing. So maybe you want to do an email that has complements with your social media as well. Maybe you want to inspire some user-generated content. So Giving Tuesday actually created the concept of the unselfie, which is technically an unselfish selfie, where people can upload a photo to their social networks talking about the cause they want to give to and why, and using specific hashtags. So maybe you want to put out a post a few weeks before Giving Tuesday, asking your audience to get ready to post their unselfie on the day of. And you can even give them a template saying, you know, here, take a photo and tell us why you give to our cause. And that can help inspire some user-generated content, which then you can use on your channels. Maybe you want to write some blog posts talking about the specific need, the campaign, the impact of what you're doing and your great work. You might want to boost some of your social media posts with some social media ads or some Google ads as well to make sure people are not only seeing it on your socials, but also, you know, when they're surfing online. Maybe you want to think of a direct mail campaign. So maybe after someone donates, you want to send them a nice thank you with an impact story showing how their work really benefits. Or you can even create a digital badge. So something that says, I donated to this cause, to kind of let people wear that proudly on Giving Tuesday. So once they make the donation, maybe they get a download of a badge that they can put on their social media profiles. Or if you're doing any kind of matching campaign, that's a good time to promote that as well. So if you have a corporate sponsor matching donations, just let your social media audience know that that's going on. So here's an example of an unselfie. And, you know, if you're asking your audience to do this, it can be really engaging. If you are going to reshare it, if you're not retweeting, but actually, you know, downloading the image and reposting it on your profiles, just make sure you get permission from the person. If you're resharing, I think it's okay, but if you're actually downloading it, it might be a good idea to just get their permission before you post it on your social media channels. Here's an example of an integrated campaign from the Humane Society. So you can see they used a YouTube video. They have a badge that says, I supported the Humane Society on Giving Tuesday that people could download and use. And of course, it's featuring cute puppies and kitties, so who wouldn't want to use that? They've given people a way to text to donate. They can donate online. And they did a nice little thank you at the end of the campaign to really focus on thanking donors and providing stewardship. So you can see how all the different pieces tend to work together. Another example of an integrated campaign is something that's actually happening this year for Giving Tuesday. So you might have seen some of these billboards and transit ads around for the new United Way campaign, and it's called Unignorable. So it takes these really beautiful illustrations and then shows a different side to the image. And what I really like about Bruce Gray United Way's campaign is that it's very local. You know, it's a brown bag challenge. Donate your takeout coffee or lunch money on Giving Tuesday and brown bag it. Very simple, very local, but they actually use the hashtag unignorable. So if you see these billboards or these transit ads around, and then you see this campaign, it kind of lets people see the message more than once, which can be really, really beneficial. So just trying to think about how we can integrate our messages in different ways, not only on social. And then once all of that is complete, that's when we start getting into our actual content. So what are we going to post? Well, you should think about how often you want to post. You might not just want to post on Giving Tuesday, but maybe you want to do some lead up before and do some posts beforehand. Maybe you want to do some posts during the day of, but not just one. Maybe it's, 2 or 3 or 4. So depending on your capacity, you're going to kind of map this out in advance and create a plan. And then, of course, after Giving Tuesday, you want to thank the donors and thank the people who participated. So you might want to think about some content afterwards as well. So really pre-campaign, during the campaign, and then afterwards. And because there's so much going on that day, as we mentioned, you really want to think about ways to stand out. So creating content that audiences want to share, asking allies and employees to help amplify your content by retweeting it, by sharing it, researching which hashtags to use. So, are we using hashtag Be the Change? Are we using hashtag Good Cause? Looking at which hashtags people use most and figuring out how our content fits into those. And then using real images is a good idea, but if you don't have any high quality real images, you can also use high quality stock images. And we did talk about a few resources earlier on that you can actually use to obtain some free, really nice quality stock images that you can use for your content. So we've gone through the liberty of actually creating some content for you in case you didn't have time to do that, or if you weren't really planning on doing anything, but now that you've seen this presentation, maybe you want to kick off your giving season with some Giving Tuesday content. So we tried to make these sort of as generic as possible so that anybody could use them. So here's an example of a pre-campaign post, and this is to be used with a URL. So whether it's your donation page or a blog post talking about your work, it's just saying Giving Tuesday is almost here. We're kicking off the holiday season. Find out how you can join the movement. And of course, I can send all of these images to you after the presentation so that you can use them right away. Here's another pre-campaign post example. So make a difference this Giving Tuesday, join the movement. And it kind of talks about the origins of Giving Tuesday. So after Black Friday and Cyber Monday, let's start the giving season off right. Join the global movement for giving and make a difference this Giving Tuesday. Mark your calendar and get involved. So it's telling people the date, reminding them to mark their calendar so that they can actually participate. And telling them that, they can make a difference. So that's a really good message, is that, you can actually make a difference this Giving Tuesday, and that might meet some of your audience's motivations for giving. If you don't have a blog or landing page, maybe just telling them, or if that's being worked on, maybe it's just telling them to mark their calendars, and then they can look the day of to actually find out how to get involved. So after Black Friday and Cyber Monday, give back on Giving Tuesday. So just talking about the benefits of giving back and why they want to take part. And you'll see I left some blank spaces in here for you to fill out with what you're doing. So this is your chance to make a difference and, help us purchase the tooth extraction machine for the zoo, or, help people undergoing cancer treatment. So you would put in here what the impact of what you're doing is, or what we want them to do. This is your chance to make a difference by volunteering for X, Y, Z. On Giving Tuesday, visit this link to learn more. So just kind of getting people prepped for the big day, telling them what you're trying to do, talking about your goals and the impact of the work. And of course, feel free to customize the post however you'd like. These are just kind of guidelines for you. Okay, so now we're actually going to look at content that we're putting out on Giving Tuesday. So it's the big day. We really want to make a big splash. We want to get as much attention as possible. So we would do this post, kindness is contagious, share this if you agree. So we're asking people to actually share the content to amplify it and make sure it reaches more people. We're celebrating the generosity of Canadians who give, so really showing people that, you know, people who take part are generous, it's part of the Canadian spirit. So really strategically encouraging people to give to our cause. And then, of course, you can sub in with what you're fundraising for, the URL, and the call to action, donate, volunteer, fundraise, etc. Another Giving Tuesday post, we're so close to our goal, will you chip in? So I talked a little bit about how actually mentioning what your goal is can inspire people to give. So by telling them that, you know, with your help, we've done a lot, but we're still not there yet. Here's what we're trying to do. Will you participate? That can help motivate people to just help you get across that last hurdle to the finish line. So using this type of content can be really beneficial for that. And then once you've wrapped up your Giving Tuesday fundraising efforts and hopefully raised a lot of money, made some new connections, you want to have a follow-up plan in place. So whether you're sending a personalized thank you note via email, via direct mail, or via social, you might want to include some after campaign impact story. Because of this, we were able to achieve X, Y, and Z, and really thinking about, you know, not the inputs, not what are we putting in, but what are we actually being able to achieve? What is the outcome? You might want to create a welcome email to onboard any new donors, because now these people are connected to your cause. And you want to add them to your database for future communications so that they're still connected to you and it's not just kind of a one-time, you know, wham, bam, thank you for your donation. We're never going to speak to you again. But before you ask for another donation, you really need to nurture that donor relationship. So thanking them, sharing some impact stories, having some conversations, whether it's on social media or outside of it. And then once you've taken the time to build the relationship, that's when you can really make your year-end ask. So, you know, we've learned from previous slides that 15% of donors can give again before the next year. They're more likely to become peer-to-peer fundraisers, and Giving Tuesday can help you raise 5 times more during year end. So I think in this case, it is okay to make another ask, but you want to really build the relationship before you do so. So whether it's, you know, a month later or a few weeks later, just make sure you fill them with some happy feelings before you make that next ask. And then, of course, we've created a thank you post for you. So if you're really strapped for time, you don't need to do anything. I'll just send this to you and you can schedule it in right away. And so the post says, you know, very audience-centric. Because of you, we were able to achieve this. So we raised, you know, $30,000 for this new equipment that we needed, or we were able to feed 50,000 Canadians, or whatever it may be that you were able to achieve. Even if it's small, people like to feel like they're part of something. So letting them know that their help actually created some positive impact can really go a long way with donors. We're so grateful for your generous support. And then Thank You Thursday is something that Giving Tuesday actually came up with. And that's the Thursday after Giving Tuesday. So that's a good time to send out this message. That's probably when the hashtag will be getting the most traction as well, so you might gain some additional visibility from that. So just really making sure to thank our donors and get them involved in our cause and part of our sort of pipeline that we can send future communication and messages to if they're agreeing for us to do that. So just to recap everything that we've spoken about, so in order to fundraise for your cause on social media, you really want to define your roles and resources to make sure that you're maximizing your time. You want to do some research to make sure you know what your goals are and who you're trying to reach. You really want to think about your audience and what they want and what they need. Then you'll map out a specific goal You'll think about how social media plays into everything else that's going on in your organization and take that holistic view of everything. You'll use really audience-centric content that's very visually appealing. And I'll send you the content, of course, that we've talked about today. And then you want to thank your donors and make sure that you're keeping the line of communication open so that they actually become part of your community. And that's really all I wanted to talk to you about today. So I know that was a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Feel free to use the chat pod to let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to clarify or if there's any questions you'd like answered. When should your post start? Well, we're 2 weeks away from Giving Tuesday right now, which is why we wanted to do this webinar today. I think this week is a really good time to start letting people know. Maybe just letting them know to mark their calendars and get ready and let them know about your goals. So obviously you might need some time to actually get all of this mapped out. But I think, you know, closer to the end of this week, beginning of next week is when you should start posting about it. I hope that answers your question, Tracy. And Gina, I'll send out the webinar as well as any of the resources that I talked about. And we actually created some images for you, so I will send those to you as well so that you can use them right away. Tracy, is there such a thing as too much posting? I do think that you have the potential to annoy your audience if you post too much. However, it also depends on the content you're posting. So one thing that audiences tend not to like is when you're posting a lot about your organization, when you're asking for money or asking for donations. So I like to think about it as being at a cocktail party, right? You don't want to go around asking people to give you money or to give you their phone number right away, right? You kind of need to nurture the relationship. You might want to tell them a funny story. You might want to listen to some of their anecdotes and then make your donation ask. So I always say it's good to do kind of 3 audience-centric posts that they value and then make 1 post about your organization. So for Giving Tuesday, you know, thinking about your audience and what their wants and needs are, you might want to give them, you know, some impact stories, some posts about how, you know, their help makes a big difference, and then make the ask. I think also for Facebook, it'll depend on your audience, but because organic reach is so low on Facebook specifically, you don't want to kind of cannibalize your own content and post a lot in the same day. So I would say for Facebook, you know, 1 post a day is where you want to aim. On Twitter, because it's very fast-paced, you might want to do a post in the morning, a post in the afternoon, a post in the evening. I think 3 posts a day is a good number to aim for. On Instagram, depending on your audience, if you have a very small audience, you might not want to post as often. But if you have a very large audience, again, organic reach is fairly low, so you want to really try to tap into as many people as possible and create different messages for different audience groups. So I would say, you know, you can probably do a post a day on Instagram or 2, but then you can also use the stories feature and post, you know, 2 or 3 stories a day if you wanted to. And then LinkedIn, I think, you know, once every few days seems to be adequate there. And actually, in another webinar that we did, we talked about how to create a social media strategy. And so that's really part of it, is thinking about what kind of content are we posting for each audience, how often are we posting, how do our posts differ on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. So if you want, I can send you a link to that content, and that might help map out why we're posting, when we're posting, and how much we should post. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, it was a bit of a long answer, but I hope that's helpful. Does anyone else want to pick my brain while I'm here with you? Feel free to ask me any burning questions that are on your mind. Is it better to use 1 photo or a collage? In the past, using a collage would have been better, but it's kind of harder now to see the content. And if you really want to use striking images, our team tends to think that, you know, collages aren't the best way to achieve that. So You can use one photo, but Facebook allows you to actually post multiple photos in one post. So, on Facebook, you might want to post a few photos. Twitter allows you to post four photos per post. So it'll show us one image and then people can kind of scroll through. So for Twitter, you might decide that you want to do 4 images just to really make a splash. But it'll depend on the content, of course. So, if you're talking about one specific thing, just pick the best image and use that. Like, for example, if it's at an event and you want to show a few photos, you might want to do the multiple photo feature. And on Instagram, there's actually a 10 photo feature where you can upload up to 10 photos in a carousel, so they can actually swipe through the 10 photos. In that case, I think that's a really powerful tool, and it's actually shown to boost the algorithm rank as well, which is something I talked about in my previous webinars. That allows people to stay on your content longer, which encourages the likelihood of your content showing up in their feed. Whenever you can, and if it makes sense with what you're posting, try to use that 10 photo feature on Instagram. It'll really depend on the specific content you're trying to post and what you're trying to achieve with that post. Sometimes a collage might be the best way. Sometimes it might be one photo. Sometimes it might be using the features and having those multiple photos. I hope that is helpful. The social media strategy webinar would probably be really useful for you to watch, because it kind of breaks down the differences between all of the platforms, how to beat the algorithm. Kyla's asking if there's one social platform that shows increased donations on Giving Tuesday versus the others. So that research wasn't apparent to me when I did look through all of the wrap-up reports. So I don't know if that was actually mapped out, but it'll also depend on your audience. So I always say Facebook is kind of like talking to your own bubble of people who are already connected to your cause, because it doesn't really reach outside of that bubble too often. Twitter, you do have hashtags that actually do get more visibility. So on Twitter, you're able to reach out of your existing network and potentially reach new people. So if you're trying to reach existing donors, you might have better luck on Facebook. If you're trying to reach new donors, maybe it's on Twitter. On Instagram, you do have the hashtags again, so higher visibility. So on Instagram, you might want to look for new donors as well. So I think your strategy will really be based on which channel you're using. And then LinkedIn, of course, is kind of your more professional audience. So if that's who you're trying to target, that might be more successful on LinkedIn than it will be on, let's say, Facebook. So just thinking about what you're trying to achieve in your goals and how that looks on each platform, and that'll probably give you the best results. So just thinking about each platform as its own individual entity. And also thinking about how people use the platform too. So if you're on Instagram with the same message you're using on Facebook, it's not going to resonate the same way, because Instagram is a very visual platform, whereas Facebook is more about, connecting with friends and community. So just thinking about each platform individually and how the content you're posting works there. I hope that helps answer that question. Does anyone else have any other questions about what they're doing on Giving Tuesday or what they're planning to do? So I think that answers everybody's questions. I want to thank you so much for participating. I hope that you found this useful and that the content is beneficial to your organization. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me. You can also find me on Twitter and on LinkedIn. I hope you all have a wonderful day and good luck on Giving Tuesday.